Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing awesome out there tonight. Had yourselves a fantastic day, and I hope everyone has been enjoying their weekend out there so far. Had no plans to make a video tonight, but here we are, and really it's because we have an increased severe weather risk for tomorrow across areas of New England and even the mid-Atlantic, with an increased tornado risk and a damaging wind risk for areas of like the interior sections of New England. I'm talking about like New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts. I mean, areas of like eastern New York State run a 10% risk of a tornado. So we're going to break that all down for you folks. We're going to get very detailed on this, talk about what's driving this, take a look at the HRRR model, and try to figure out the timing, evolution of these storms. And we'll have everything broken up for you folks, timestamp wise. This video is not going to be a super long one. We're not going to drag this video out, but we are going to give you guys some really good information and all that good stuff. So once again, my cat's hanging out with me. I actually have the house to myself right now. My girls are at, they call it Summerfest at my church. It's basically like a version of Vacation Bible School, you know, that a lot of churches do during the summer. So tonight's the first night of doing that. My wife is volunteering, so have a couple hours of myself this evening. So I thought, hey, you know, bad weather coming for the Northeast, a little extra time to make a video. So here we are doing it. My cat's joining me. He's just chilling right there on the rail of my bed. When there's nobody else home and I'm kind of locked into a room, my animals, my dogs, and my cats literally just hang out right outside my door. So literally Rocket behind me, he will scream. You guys have heard it before. So I was like, let's go on and just bring Rocket in. He'll just be part of this video. So there he is behind me. So anyways, if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you notice low energy or me just kind of stumbling over words, I'm exhausted, guys. I worked this morning outside, and then I sweated again earlier this afternoon. Just been an exhausting physical day. I'm on a crazy diet right now where I've cut a lot of carbs, so I don't have the energy I typically do when I eat more. But anyways, that's another story. For you guys that don't know, I'm a big I've been on a fitness journey and a nutrition journey, dieting for the last year, and I've really just took it to a whole nother level. So I'm certainly in a big time deficit as far as what I'm eating right now. So just some low energy that I'm dealing with. But anyways, if you guys have got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can do that and so many others can do so too. Let's get rocking and rolling. So we'll start off by looking at the Storm Prediction Center outlook. This was updated a few hours ago. Of course, we'll have some new information as we wake up tomorrow morning, but they're already confident enough to bump this up another category that you see in the orange. That is an enhanced risk for areas of Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and a very small section of New York State, just about including Albany. This might include down to Albany by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning. I definitely don't think they'll decrease it. If anything, they'll increase the area that this orange area is covering. So level 3 out of 5, and then we have a massive slight risk extending from southern Maine all the way down to areas of Ohio, even a very small section of northern Kentucky, sections of West Virginia, all the way down to DC, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, Boston, all included in this, Hartford. So a lot of area, Binghamton, Scranton, you guys are including this, Pittsburgh. So that's a level 2 out of 5. Marginal risk is in the dark green, level 1 out of 5. So what is driving this? Well, the tornado outlook and damaging winds is really what's driving this enhanced risk. There's not a hatched risk up with this. A lot of times with a 10% risk of a tornado, we'll get a hatched risk. That might change when we wake up tomorrow morning. As of now, that's not what we have. If you live in that yellow area, and I know Robin does, if you ever hear me mention a random name, it's probably not random for people who tune in every single day, and it's part of the comments that everybody that joins in. Robin lives in southern sections of Vermont. Make sure I don't get that mixed up with New Hampshire. And yeah, you need to watch out. You're right in the middle of this 10% risk of a tornado. So please be aware, Robin, for sure. She's a supporter of the channel. I certainly appreciate you very much. But the entire yellow area, Concord, I think is the way y'all pronounce it up here. 10% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. Okay. I don't think Manchester is quite included in this. I think you're in the 5% risk area, but Portland, extreme western sections of Maine, southwestern sections of Maine, 5% risk of a tornado. Burlington, 5% risk. Albany, 5% risk in this brown area. Then a very large area in green, that's a 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in the given location. So if we look at the damaging wind outlook, this is what's driving that enhanced risk also. In that red area, that's a 30% chance of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. In the yellow area, that's a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles in a given location. So be aware of damaging winds also. A lot of wind energy in the atmosphere and all levels of the atmosphere. And we'll talk about that here in a second. And the hail outlook does not look very severe. We could get a bump up another category from, what is this? From a 5% to a 15% risk is very possible somewhere. But for now, they're thinking hail is not going to be near as big of a deal as wind and tornadoes for tomorrow. So let's go on and look at the HRRR model. We're really going to zoom into Vermont, New Hampshire, areas of New York State, and just southern New England first. And now we might kind of flip over and go to Maine too, because I know I got Maine kind of cut off in this. But I do have the areas in Maine that run the highest risk of severe weather. But really zooming into this region. Tomorrow, starting off tomorrow morning around 8 a.m., we could already wake up to some storm and heavy rain activity. I don't think that this will be too bad, but we're already waking up to some stormy conditions in southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire. As we make our way to about midday, this is around 12 p.m., 1 p.m., around lunchtime, storms are starting to really get going over areas of especially northern Vermont. But just about everybody in Vermont could be getting some storms. Look at this storm right on top of Albany. Now, guys, just remember, this is just short-range model guidance. This is not always exactly the way it's going to play out, but this is all we got. We just got guidance, and you match it up with the actual ingredients in the atmosphere, and it makes sense. This is when it gets concerning. We'll go to about 3 p.m. We got these discrete cells. Look at this one up here. I mean, even in northern New Hampshire. This one in southern New Hampshire. Okay, look at this cell right here in southern Vermont. Look at this one again right outside of Albany. Okay, these discrete cells are the ones that could really produce a tornado. So, of course, a lot of these areas are mountainous areas. It's definitely not a storm chaser's paradise, that's for sure. So, visibility-wise, probably going to be a little tough to see. Might kind of ride over a mountain, a ridge. It's going to be wild tomorrow for sure. So just if your area gets under a tornado warning, take it serious. Take it to about 4 p.m. Shows these kind of clustering up, but still have a tornado threat. I certainly think the damaging wind threat will begin to increase, though. They might grow upscale, meaning they might cluster up into a line of storms. But certainly a lot of activity still back here in New York State, but a lot of activity in the southern half of New Hampshire, Vermont. These will begin to sneak into areas of like Massachusetts. We're going to get some storms down here around New York City too, Long Island. These could be more intense. There could be a lot more activity down here than what this is showing. And then look at the areas of southern Maine getting hit by some nasty storms around late afternoon, early evening, all the way to the coastal regions. Look at these storms right in here. And then, will they hold together by the time they get to Boston? That's a big question. I'll have to see. But they no doubt look the most intense right into here. Circle the area. Most intense for sure right here in this region. So definitely, if you live here in this area, definitely check in with me in the comments. That is an area that's the most concern. You look at the significant tornado parameter, and remember, just because you see a really high number on this, don't mean there's a huge significant chance of a tornado. The higher the number you see on your screen, the better the ingredients for tornadoes. Okay, that's what the significant tornado parameter is. And then we start to get to about midday. This is already beginning to spike to 2s and 3s and 4s up here in New Hampshire. I mean, really anywhere that you see in like the orange and reds. But it's really as we start to get to about 3, 4 p.m. You see how it's latching on to this storm right here. Significant tornado parameter begins to spike to a 7, 8, 9. And Worcester Hills region between the Berkshires and the Worcester Hills, you guys are starting to get to 3s, 4s, and 5s. And then look how Massachusetts really spikes right here around 5 p.m. I mean, you even got a significant tornado parameter of around a 2 or 3 in Boston. So the ingredients definitely begin to spike into the afternoon hours, and then things will level off as we get deeper into the evening. The updraft Felicity swath, okay, this is for what's happening kind of now into the next several hours. You're going to see an area that pops up right here. Here it comes. There it is right there. See those streaks of colors? Not here, okay? but it's really this stuff. It actually comes in from a different direction. Okay, this stuff down here is kind of going that way. This is going more so this way. So the stuff today is more so northwest flow action. The stuff tomorrow is driven off a cyclone, low pressure up in Quebec that will be riding to the north, which will bring a lot of low-level kinematics, low-level wind flow that will support tornadoes and damaging winds. So it's highlighted right here in that 10% risk area. See these highlighted yellows and greens? This is where we could have rotating thunderstorms, stronger thunderstorms. So be aware of that. Now we head on into the damaging winds. You know, this is just between now and Monday morning. You know, you see, you know, pockets of stronger winds right into here. I'm telling you, Robin, you know, this looks like a setup that favors right on top of your house here in southern Vermont. So be aware, you know, the oranges here, you know, 50, 55 mile per hour wind gusts are possible, just like the Storm Prediction Center highlights. But you can just see the splotchy in nature, just wherever the storms form, they're going to have an opportunity to have damaging winds. Okay. But you head on down to the rest of New York State, Pennsylvania, surrounding states, the Mid-Atlantic. And here comes these storms tomorrow morning. Not a whole lot going on, but by the time we get to about 2 or 3 o'clock, storms become widespread down here and western PA, Ohio, eastern Ohio, Buffalo getting some storms. Look at these storms kind of just northeast of Binghamton, around the Syracuse region. We got some strong to severe storms. But I do think these are lacking kinematics. Kinematics meaning better wind flow aloft to support a tornado threat. But you still can't rule it out down here. But definitely widespread showers and storms for western PA, western New York State. Watch out these storms here in southern sections of Ontario. If you live here, be mindful you're a little bit closer to that low pressure. So you're dealing with a little bit better kinematics. So you could have a little bit of a tornado threat earlier in the day tomorrow. All this energy will kind of make its way west to east. You just want to watch these storms around 7 to 8 p.m. Like I said, western PA, southern tier of New York, definitely a risk of a tornado or two out here, some gusty winds and just scattered development down here. You know, what are the storms going to be like along the I-95 corridor? That's a big question. D.C. to Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City. You know, the latest long-range HRRR model doesn't say it being that, show it being that active, but that doesn't mean that it potentially won't be. But you look at the significant tornado parameter, and it does, you know, kind of rise with these storms. You just want to watch them, but very low, much lower numbers compared to what we just saw for southern New England. But certainly will be a threat, and we'll definitely have some gusty winds with these too. As you can tell, 30, 40, 45 mile per hour wind gusts are possible with some of these storms. So, you know, certainly be aware of this. Not near as active. And one thing I wasn't really going to show, but you know, I don't want to leave you guys hanging out, is down here in the southern Alps region. Certainly could get some storms tomorrow, or you guys have a marginal and a slight risk. So some storms are possible in Kentucky. You guys could get some storm action, especially central to eastern Kentucky tomorrow afternoon. And these will eventually drift into like eastern Tennessee, and then eventually get to the Alps, where, you know, they can deliver some heavy rain, some gusty winds, but I really don't think these will be a big deal at all. There's just lack of forcing, lack of ingredients for severe weather in the atmosphere down here. So, but speaking on the ingredients for severe weather for the main event up here in New England, these are winds at 500 millibars, about, you know, 18,000 feet up in the air. So, you know, where you see these purples here, that's, you know, 45 to 55 knots of mid-level flow. So winds about, you know, going about interstate speed, about 18,000 feet up. So plenty of flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere for sure. And this is more so kind of going out the west in general. You see the wind barbs pointing to the west. That means your winds in this level of the atmosphere is moving west to east pretty much. So plenty of flow. And I showed this to you just because, you know, there's a lot of wind energy in the upper levels of the atmosphere over New England. So you know there's enough push in the atmosphere to get these storms going for sure. Okay. But the one thing that is substantially different in this setup is the low-level wind field. Okay, this is really what you look at if we have an increased damaging wind threat or a tornado threat. And because we have a cyclone up here, a low pressure at the base of this trough digging through Canada, you look at the low-level winds at 850 millibars, about a mile above our heads, you know, 4,000 to 6,000 feet up. There's tons of low-level flow over this region. A lot of it. Even a lot along this line of storms down in Pennsylvania too. So you got a ton of low-level flow. And, you know, it's coming more so out the west too, but it's coming a little bit more out the southwest. So your winds coming a little bit more out the southwest in the lower levels, and then the more in the upper levels coming more so out the west. So a little bit of turning with height. Not a lot, though. Not a lot. But certainly a lot of wind energy across New England, the low levels of the atmosphere. So that's really what separates this event from one of your, like, other events earlier in the week. And then, of course, all this flow in all levels of the atmosphere is going over a very moist air mass. I'm going to have to get this going. This is our last panel, by the way, so not a super long video for you guys that don't like the long videos. But we get into tomorrow afternoon. Look at the dew points in southern New England. Rising well into the 70s. An extremely humid afternoon in southern New England tomorrow. Air you can wear. You'll feel the storms coming. Okay? A little bit of a dry slide into here. But look at the humidity building ahead of these storms in like areas of Ohio, Pennsylvania, dew points in the upper 60s, low 70s. Plenty of juice in the low levels of the atmosphere at the surface. Okay? So, yeah, that's it. Pretty short one. But you guys stay safe, be aware. We'll go over all this again in the morning like we always do. But I just want to keep you guys a little extra prepared, a little extra aware of what potentially unfolds tomorrow. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful night, and I'll talk to you again in the morning.